It's time to play the music, it's time to light the lights. Because today we're going to be talking about a remake of an old property that somehow didn't end up becoming a cold and lifeless corporate money grab. It's the 2011 The Muppets. Usually one might want to talk about budget, box office reception, or critical reviews before talking about a movie, but I just want to, in this episode of Herald Reviews, revisit this movie and sing its praises. So Walter, our protagonist, he's born a Muppet to a human family and is a lifelong fan of the Muppet Show. His older brother Gary, who is a human, don't think about it too hard, intends to take his long-term girlfriend Mary on a vacation to Los Angeles. Mary wants Gary to propose to her, but she feels like Walter takes up too much time in their relationship. She feels that Gary cares too much about Walter and not Mary. Now the trio tour the rundown Muppet Studios, where Walter sneaks into Kermit the Frog's old office. He's so excited, but then immediately he overhears a conversation. It's Tex Richmond, the oil tycoon, and his henchmen, Uncle Deadly and Bobo the Bear. Tex Richmond smells oil right underneath the Muppet Studios, and he intends at the end of the Muppets' original contract, once that's expired, he's going to excavate every lasting physical property of the Muppets. Walter is terrified. The last thing he overhears is Tex Richmond saying that if only somehow the Muppets could raise the $10 million, that'd be the only way that Tex Richmond could not mine for the oil. Screaming all the way back home, Walter rushes to Mary and Gary and pleads with them to do something. And finally they agree to find Kermit. So, after finding his address in LA, they arrive at Kermit's mansion, and for the first time in an emotional scene, we see Kermit the Frog in live action once again. Now, Kermit is depressed. He doesn't want to put the team back together. He's moved on. Miss Piggy broke up with him. Gonzo has run off with some knockoff version of the Muppets, the Muppets, so everything's just really gone downhill. But after an emotional speech from Walter, Kermit finally decides to get the gang back together in a good old-fashioned 80s vintage road trip, referencing the original Muppet movie, of course. And once the gang is back together, they decide to rebuild the theater and try one last time to raise that $10 million in one last The Muppet Show. They find a way to get the time slot, and they start their performance. No one is in the theater except for a hobo. But after about 5-10 minutes, people start to fill in the theater. They want to see the Muppets. It's the first time they've been back together in a long time. And so, as the Muppets are trying to raise the money, Tex Richmond doesn't want that to happen. So Tex Richmond decides, I need to sabotage them. Tex Richmond takes his car, drives right into the telephone pole, cuts the power, the Muppets are stopped. Approximately $9 million short of the goal. The Muppets are dejected. They slowly march with their heads down out of the theater. Walter, who gave the last act, is dejected. But as he pushes open the doors, what does he see but a crowded LA screaming, cheering for the Muppets? Tex Richmond has a change of heart and decides that the Muppets can still be the Muppets. Yay, and it's a happy ending. Now this movie is special to me for lots of reasons. As someone who's loved the Muppets since I was a kid, always watching it on VHS or some newly burned DVD port, this movie can still be easily loved by anyone who has no prior recollection of the Muppets. For one, the music, to use the colloquialism of our time, slaps. From the introductory Life's a Happy song to the emotionally climactic Rainbow Connection, the soundtrack never fails to hit the right chord. Jason Segel and Amy Adams are casted perfectly for a movie about Muppets. Never at any point do they overtake the Muppets story, because they are the titular Muppets, but they bring a human element that allow us to enter into the movie. And a big plus I give the movie is the casting of Peter Linz as our protagonist Muppet, Walter. He's just a simple puppeteer, no real prior experience in Hollywood, and I think that's great. It's not that hard to imagine a world where the studio would get some big name voice actor to come in and would promote the movie not based upon the Muppets, but upon that particular protagonist voice actor. But the Muppets knows it's a Muppets movie. The story isn't about Walter as the individual, it's about Walter coming to join the team, finding the team he's meant to be with. And that's why I love this movie so much, and I cannot recommend it any higher. I give it an 8.5 out of 10.